I helped him rise to the top. Then he buried me alive. That sentence isn't just my nightmare. It's my truth. He was my best friend, my business partner, the man I trusted with everything I had. Together we built an empire from the dust, sweat, sacrifice, and dreams. But the higher we climbed, the darker his shadow grew. And when greed took over, he didn't just steal my success. He stole my life. This isn't just a story about betrayal. It's about how ambition can turn a friend into a monster, and how sometimes the people who promise to lift you up are the same ones who push you under. The first time I met Daniel Cross was a Tuesday in late October. Chicago, 2008. The world was collapsing, banks failing, people losing homes, and there he was, sitting in the corner booth of Miller's Diner, tapping his fingers on a cracked laptop. I'd stopped in for coffee after finishing a break job. He waved me over like we already knew each other. "You're Mike, right? The guy who can fix anything with wheels?" I nodded, cautious. He grinned. "Perfect. I can sell anything with wheels." That line was the start of everything good and everything that ruined me. We started flipping cars out of my old garage behind the house. He'd charm the sellers, I'd rebuild the engines. Within months, we had enough cash to rent a real shop. He designed the sign, D&M Auto Works. I remember the day it went up. Bright red letters, a symbol of hope. He was slick in meetings, always shaking hands, talking fast, wearing suits that made him look like success itself. I was the quiet one, covered in grease and pride. But Daniel said we were equals. Two halves of the same machine, he liked to say. The first big deal came from a local dealership that wanted us to refurbish old inventory. Money poured in. We hired people, expanded, bought new lifts, new tools. Customers lined up. Reporters came. We even made the business section of the Tribune. Two friends rebuild the American dream. At night, we'd sit on the shop roof drinking cheap beer, watching traffic lights blink red and green. I told him I'd never had a brother. He said, "You do now." I believed him, but success turns people into something else. He started showing up late, leaving early. He'd vanish for business meetings I wasn't invited to. I caught glimpses, calls from unknown numbers, envelopes with cash, strange men in suits visiting after hours. When I asked, he smiled that salesman smile. "Relax, Mikey. Gotta grease a few palms to keep us growing." The first time I really doubted him was the night he bought the Mercedes. We'd just closed a major contract. I expected to reinvest in equipment. Instead, he rolled up in a silver S-Class, music blasting. "You like it?" He shouted over the bass. "With whose money?" I asked. "Ours, but come on, man, it's image." Customers trust success. Something in me cracked then, small but real. 2 months later, I found a hidden folder on our office computer, files labeled private accounts, transfers, shell companies, withdrawals. 50 grand missing. I confronted him after closing. "Where's the money, Dan?" He leaned back, smirking. "You wouldn't understand the logistics. Just trust me." "Trust you? Like I trusted you when you said we're equals?" He stood, eyes cold now. "Don't start getting sentimental. I built this brand. You're just the hands." That hurt more than a punch. The next morning, the business account was emptied. He disappeared. His number disconnected. Then came the IRS letters, the forged signatures, my name on fake tax filings. When federal agents showed up, they didn't see Daniel's genius. They saw my fingerprints, my shop, my signature. 3 days later, D&M Auto Works didn't exist. My house went to pay legal fees. My mother stopped answering my calls out of shame. I spent 2 years clawing my way out of debt, sleeping in a rented room above a bar. Sometimes I'd stare at my grease-black hands and think about that roof, the beer cans, his promise. "You do now." Then one night, flipping through channels in that dim room, I froze. On TV, Daniel. Hair slicked, suit perfect, shaking hands with investors. The Chiron read, "Daniel Cross, the comeback king." He was telling my story. My downfall, calling himself the victim who rebuilt from nothing. The world loved him. I threw the remote through the screen. Something inside me went silent after that. No shouting, no crying, just cold focus. Over the next year, I tracked him quietly. New company, Cross Investments. Headquarters downtown. Big money again. I learned his routines. Same gym, same restaurant, same chauffeur every morning. When I finally stood outside his glass tower, I felt invisible. Inside, people in suits rushed around like he was a god. I walked to the reception desk and said, "Tell Daniel Cross that Michael Davis is here." Minutes later, he appeared, surprise flashing for half a second before the charm returned. "Mike, my man, you look good." "It's been ages." "Yeah," I said, forcing a smile. "Ages." We went to a bar nearby, the same one where we'd celebrated our first deal. He ordered expensive whiskey and talked like nothing had happened. "I always knew you'd bounce back," he said. "You're resilient." "You left me to rot," I said quietly. He tilted his head. "You were collateral damage. You think I wanted to ruin you? But I had to survive. And look, we both made it, right?" I stared at him. "You call this survival?" He smiled. "Come on, Mike, don't get emotional. You were never built for the big leagues." That's when I realized he didn't feel guilt. Not even a flicker. I finished my drink, stood up and said, "You're right. I wasn't built for it, but I learned." He laughed, slapped my shoulder. "Good. Maybe we'll work together again someday." "Maybe," I said. I didn't kill him that night. I wanted to, but revenge tastes better cold. For months I planned. I found his weaknesses: construction projects, shady loans, political donors. He'd gotten careless, arrogant. I took a job at one of his sites under a different name. No one recognized me. I was just another worker in a hard hat. I watched him visit, barking orders, shaking hands. Then came the night the storm rolled in. He arrived late, furious about delays. "Get the floodlights on!" he shouted. The rain made rivers of mud around the half-dug foundation. I guided him toward the trench to show the damage. He leaned over, cursing the soil. "This whole thing's a disaster," he said. His boot slipped. For a heartbeat, he dangled, grabbing at the edge. "Help me, man!" he shouted. I froze. In that instant, I saw every sleepless night, every whisper that called me a thief. His fingers clawed at the mud. "Mike, please!" And I realized he still thought I'd help him, because deep down, he believed everyone existed to pull him up. I bent down. He looked up, terrified. "You remember what you said on the roof?" I whispered. "You do now." Lightning flashed, and then everything went dark. When I opened my eyes, the storm was gone. Silence. Mud. Nothing but the hiss of wind through rebar. I walked away from the site and never looked back. The next morning, news broke that Daniel Cross was missing. Investigators said the storm probably washed him into the river. They never found a body. I should have felt free, but freedom didn't come. Only quiet, heavy, and endless. That night I packed my things, left Chicago, and drove west until the city lights disappeared. I told myself the past was buried for good. But sometimes, late at night when thunder rolls, I still hear that voice behind me, calm, confident, impossible to forget, calling my name through the rain. 3 months passed before I could say his name again. Daniel. Every morning I woke before sunrise, staring at a cracked motel ceiling in Kansas City, telling myself it was finished. The storm had taken him. The river had done the rest. I was free, but freedom has an echo. It started with small things, a text alert for an old account I hadn't used since Chicago. Password reset successful, then an email from an address I didn't recognize. No message, just an attachment named Blueprints. I didn't open it. A week later, I got a letter at the motel, no return address, postmarked from Illinois. Inside was a photo of D&M Auto Works, our old sign, except the red letters were splattered with mud, like someone had dug it out of the ground. I told myself it was a cruel prank. I burned the letter in the sink. But the nightmares came back. Daniel's voice, the rain, his hand reaching up through the mud. Every thunderstorm made me flinch. Then one afternoon, a black SUV pulled into the motel parking lot. 2 men in suits stepped out. "Michael Davis?" one asked. My stomach dropped. "Who's asking?" "Special Agent Rowe, FBI. We need a word." Inside the room, they spread photos on the bed. Construction site, blueprints, bank statements. "You used to work with Daniel Cross?" "Used to?" I said carefully. "He's missing." Rose said. Presumed dead. But someone's been using his credentials to move large sums through offshore accounts. We thought you might know something. I almost laughed. You think I stole from him? He studied my face. I think you know more than you're saying. They left after 20 minutes taking the photos. But one picture slipped under the bedspread. After they drove off, I picked it up. It wasn't a bank document. It was a CCTV still, dated last week. Daniel, stepping out of a car in downtown Chicago. For hours I sat frozen, the motel clock ticking louder than my pulse. The idea that he'd somehow survived, that he was out there watching, felt unreal. But deep down it made sense. Daniel had always been too stubborn to die quietly. The next day I drove back to Chicago. The city looked different, brighter, faster. I checked old addresses. His condo sold. His office, new name on the door. But people remembered him. Oh, Mr. Cross? The doorman said. He still comes by sometimes. Real nice guy. I followed that trail to the north side, an upscale neighborhood near the river. Late evening, drizzle in the air. Through the window of a corner cafe, I saw him. Sitting alone, reading a paper, wearing the same easy smile. For a long moment, I just watched. The same face, older, maybe thinner, but alive. I walked inside. He looked up and smiled like we'd seen each other yesterday. Mike, he said calmly, as if the years and betrayal never happened. Coffee? My throat went dry. You're supposed to be dead. Supposed to be, he said, folding the paper. Turns out I'm harder to bury than you thought. Every sound in the cafe faded. You set me up, I said. He tilted his head. No, you set yourself up. I gave you a chance to start over. You just chose guilt instead. You forged my name, destroyed my life, and you destroyed mine. He interrupted quietly. The night of the storm, I climbed out of that pit half dead. You left me there. I spent weeks in a hospital under a fake name. While you vanished, I rebuilt again. But I couldn't decide whether to ruin you or thank you. Thank me? I laughed bitterly. For proving what I always knew, he said. You and I are the same, survivors. He slid an envelope across the table. Inside is a check. $500,000 for your silence. I stared at it. You think money fixes this? He smiled. Money fixes everything. Always has. I stood. You're still that same snake, Daniel. He shrugged. Maybe. But snakes live longer than saints. I walked out before I did something I'd regret. That night, back at the motel, I opened the envelope. Inside wasn't a check. It was a single sheet of paper with one sentence. Round 2 starts when you wake up. I froze. Looked around. The window curtain fluttered. The next morning, the motel manager knocked, pale-faced. Sir, there's been an accident. The men who visited you? They, never checked back to headquarters. Vanished. I didn't wait. I packed and drove south until the city skyline disappeared. Every town looks the same after a while. Gas stations, coffee, static on the radio. I change names, jobs, habits. But some nights, when thunder rolls, I swear I see headlights behind me a little too long. Maybe he's alive. Maybe it's guilt. Either way, Daniel Cross never really left that pit, and neither did I. Because when you bury a man's soul, you dig your own grave beside it. If you liked my story, please like the video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with as many people as possible. Thanks for watching.